All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another CNCF Harbor meeting. This is the US-based time zone, and it's the 10th of April of 2019. I guess it looks like this time works a little bit better for folks since we got Tyler and Nathan to join us and Jonas as well. So we'll keep this time and see if we can kind of get a few more folks to start joining us and kind of grow the community outside Asia Pacific as well. Since there's only a few of us, let's go and do a quick round of introductions since it's my first time meeting Tyler and Nathan. So let's spend a couple of minutes on that. So Jonas, why don't you start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonas Roslin. I'm an open source community manager here at VMware. Harbor is one of the projects that I help with community management.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you. I'll go next. Michael. I'm the product lead for Harbor. I'm one of the directors of product management at VMware, and I have responsibilities across a few different tools like Harbor, vSphere integrated containers, enterprise PKS. In addition to that, I'm one of the chairs in the Kubernetes community, so I lead the SIG Windows community there. Brad, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Brad Mazelis. I am an engineering director at VMware, and I'm responsible for the VMware engineers who work on Harbor among some other projects as well.
So Nathan, when you ask for features, Brad is the right guy to bribe because he decides how engineers work on it.
I'll keep that in mind.
All right, Nathan, you want to go next?
Sure. Hello. I'm Nathan Lowe. I am a DevOps engineer with Highland Software out in Westlake, Ohio. We've been using Harbor since, 1.2 or 1.3. It's been working out pretty well so far for our internal registry. And I just recently became a maintainer on the Harbor project earlier this year.
Excellent. Thank you. Tyler?
I guess that leaves me. So my name is Tyler Britton. I work for Pivotal on Kubernetes and PKS, and I just started poking around with the Harbor Helm tools most recently in the last couple of weeks.
Excellent, cool. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So I'll since it's mostly folks that are super engaged into the project, I'll go through a couple of slides really quickly, and then after that, I'll give us an opportunity to have a discussion as well. So we'll go through the slides really quickly. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, cool. Excellent. So, our agenda today is a little bit of 1.8 development updates. We'll talk a little bit about the community survey that we have published not too long ago. There's a couple of new features that do have demos that are recorded, and if they're not published yet, they should be published by end of day on our community website. So you guys will be able to see demos of Prepare Flow and OIDC support. And then after that, we'll leave this open-ended. So looking at the 1.8 development cycle. So our goal is to go live before KubeCon in Barcelona. So that's basically the 20th of May timeline, plus or minus a couple of days. And the goal there is to align with the bigger, all that upheaval that happens in the conference. And you have a lot of folks that are really interested in the cloud native. There's a lot of announcements, there's press. So we can kind of ride that momentum, and that can also carry our 1.8 release. We are going to have a community event there, and I'll talk about that in a second. So, from a development standpoint, the robot accounts, health check API, new master role, the new Swagger APIs, the cron scheduled tasks, and the refactoring, as well as some of the rework around prepare scripts is all done. The OIDC support is nearing its end, and we've actually reached out to a couple of different entities that have asked to integrate with Harbor or take advantage of OIDC to get feedback in that area. And then the replication work that we're doing, it did have some hiccups at a couple of points in time. mainly because of resourcing and availability of certain folks to come in and contribute. But we've been able to add additional engineers from a VMware standpoint, and that's on track now, and it's close to being completed. So overall, the release is looking to be in good shape and progressing well. One of the other things that I've asked the team to make sure that it produces that every time we have a release of Harbor, I want us to also have an equivalent release in Helm charts. Maybe the release numbers don't need too much, but for every release of Harbor, we need to make sure that the Helm chart is updated and tested, validated, and it works well with 1.8. So I guess coming back to the point that Tyler mentioned, that he's looking into the Helm charts, one of our goals is to have consistency across the releases of Harbor plus Helm. Since Nathan is also on the call, we did have a discussion about the PR that you had filed, Nathan, and kind of asked to slowly start merging it into the tree and kind of produce that work over multiple releases. And probably as soon as 1.8 is done, we'll merge that in. My goal is to kind of, as we move on to the 1.9 and future Harbor releases, we might kind of adopt similar ways to how Kubernetes manages releases, where you have like a 1 month period or so of feature requests being happening, and we do prioritization as a community with all the maintainers who identify all the items that are important to us as a community to work on, and then assign owners or leads from the community that will kind of drive those features forward and check them in. And ideally, we want to keep, whatever we approve in that timeline is the only things we want to basically allow into the release. So that feature that you kind of asked for, will probably slot that in for 1.9 and then allow you to incrementally make changes and slowly merge that into the tree.
Cool, that makes sense.
Yeah. This will kind of also give us the opportunity to communicate externally what's coming up next in Harbor, everybody access to roadmaps and also Kanban. So maybe next meeting, that'll be one of the things that we'll spend some time on and look at the Kanban board and think about what's coming next. All right. If you guys remember, there was a community survey that we've run for almost a month or so across a wide variety. Like a lot of folks had access to it. We publicized it on Twitter, on WeChat, on the CNCF Slack channels. So we've had a wide variety of users from Harbor that gave us answers in terms of what's important to them from the community. So I wanted to kind of share a little bit the results here. So if you look at the survey here, I'm assuming you guys can see my new screen here. Most of the folks that have answered the survey they have already deployed Harbor. They understand Harbor in terms of the features and functionality. So they were not like more on the beginner side or folks that had very little knowledge of Harbor. Obviously, we did have a good healthy percentage of contributors and maintainers that answered the survey, and those are the guys that have mostly VMware, and as well as folks like you guys that are deeply knowledgeable about our investment in Harbor. So continuing down the survey, the location, it seems that we have a good distribution here between Asia Pacific and North America, with a little bit of European respondents as well. So if you look at the versions of Harbor that everybody is using, it looks like the majority is 1.7. So at that point in time, it is the latest release of Harbor. So 1.8 is not out yet. So we're happy to see that we don't have a lot of old versions of Harbor out there. And that also helps along our, the fact that we don't really support Harbor for an indefinite amount of time. So this makes it easy for us as we transition folks from older releases to the latest and greatest. And we're hoping that everybody will kind of start using 1.8 when it comes out both from the perspective that we want to make that the best release of Harbor, but also that's the release that we're going to continue iterating on. The approaches for installation of Harbor kind of vary widely. We have folks using the home chart, the online installer, offline installer, OVAs, or kind of building their own homegrown tools. From an investment standpoint, I think we'll continue making more and more investments into the home chart. This allows us to create an AJ installation of Harbor, and it seems to me that a lot of folks from the community have given us feedback that they do really want to see the home chart to be one of the best and most efficient ways to deploy Harbor. So like I mentioned earlier, we'll continue doubling down on our investment there and making sure that we seam release Harbor and Helm. As you can see, there's also quite a few folks that are deploying Harbor with PKS and Ops Manager. That's the enterprise PKS solution that VMware is selling. All right, so when we kind of ask folks what are the main functions of Harbor that you're using, the results here are a little bit additive. It's just more around, we're allowing folks to say, hey, are you using X, Y, or Z? So the sum is bigger than 100%. But it looks like vulnerability scanning seems to be one of the features that most of our users are using. So that indicates to us that we need to continue investing in that. LWAD integration, that's also highly valued. And the OIDC support that we're having in 1.8 will only continue further the usage of this feature. And then the one thing that was, I guess, a surprise to me was the content trust. So that means to me that we need to find better ways of improving usability of content trust, specifically maybe around replication. Today, if you replicate your image across multiple Harbor instances, content trust is not replicated. So that's a problem there. So for me as a PM, I can identify some of these issues and see how we can solve them, and that could drive content trust to be more widely used.
Hey, Michael, I agree with you in general. The idea of replication being a problem is something that users wouldn't actually figure out until they'd actually tried it. And I think actually that the biggest problem with adoption there is just the complexity of onboarding. Yep. I think we should probably put some energy into making it easy. From the standpoint of I'm a developer. Here's my code. I want it to be signed, and it's like one step instead of the multi-step process that we have today.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Because then we'll have, then the community will say, hey, wait a minute, I signed my images and they lose their certificate upon replication.
Yeah.
Then we can solve that problem next. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, I was just giving that as an example of something that's not easy to use and people don't like it. So, our goal here is to make it very simple and with as little friction as possible to utilize content trust. Like the same way we did for vulnerability scanning. You don't have to do much today. You just upload your images, select what kind of scanning blocks you want to put. If you want to block images from being pulled, if they have a high CV, and you're done. Like that's super simple.
Right. Well, it's got value, and you enable the feature with the checkbox, right?
Yep.
And so I think content trust has very similar value, but it's not just a checkbox, and I think that's the problem. I think if it was a checkbox, everybody would use it. Like, why would you not use it? You see what I'm saying?
No, completely agree. All right. Next one is kind of trying to get folks to see what kind of new features you might want from a Harbor's perspective. It looks like it's all over the place. Improve replication, webhook for integrating with CI/CD systems or other alerting and notification mechanisms. We have CI/CD pipeline integrations also ranked highly. High availability, obviously. So you can see here that we have improved Helm charts. A lot of folks are asking for a lot of new features to be added into Harbor. Some of them are already coming, like YDC is coming this release, webhooks as well. I think that we need to make sure that we probably prioritize this and look at both the investments that some of our users are making into Harbor and make sure we kind of double down on the areas that are going to have the biggest impact, starting maybe from low-hanging fruits, but also things that are going to protect our investments into Harbor and how Harbor grow. More on that when we start doing the 1.9 prioritization. So we'll definitely talk about this more at that point. So a question asking folks if they're willing to do contributions to the Harbor community. It looks like there's a good percentage of folks that are interested in contributing more. I think, you know, the first item there is to get them to start being engaged in the community and having a good time zone that folks can come in and talk to us. And this bi-weekly meeting now hopefully will help. Beyond that, you know, getting them engaged into Slack and asking questions. When folks ask me, how do I get started? My first answer is install the product, play with it, find some bugs, file them, and then read documentation and see if you can actually figure out how to fix some of those bugs. And we'll help you. And you know, we'll see if that model works okay or not. And this is more around, you know, domain expertise of folks. We seem to have a significant uptick in DevOps folks that are interested in contributing. One of the last questions is if folks have attended the Harbor community event activities. We have a good percentage that has, but a lot of folks that are interested in Harbor, they want to be part of the Harbor community, but have not attended any of our meetings. So I'm hoping we're going to change that, and we are going to have a big community meeting at KubeCon that hopefully will spearhead some of that effort of bringing more members into our community. Yeah, that's it on this. So let me go back to the slides really quickly. So one of the things that Stephen Zhao that presented this at the Asia Pacific time zone is that there be some issues around the job service, whether that's job status is freezing or users are not able to stop or cancel jobs, and some of the time interval precision is not there. We're aware of all those issues, so if you guys have hit them, we are familiar with them, and we already started working on them, and all these fixes are going to be delivered with 1.8. So rest assured that, you know, when we encounter an area like this that it's not performing up to our quality standards, we'll address it quickly and deliver the fixes. All right, so a couple of upcoming community events. There's a hackathon that's happening in China. Not expecting any of you guys to attend, but if you are really interested, please let us know. We'll hook you up to the right folks and you can attend. I think a prerequisite might be speaking Chinese, so there might be a few barriers to entry here. But then at the two next KubeCon events, both in EU and in Shanghai, we have secured both Harbor meetings, as in breakout sessions that are related to Harbor. So people can, from an end user perspective, will be able to attend and learn about Harbor and maybe see demos of Harbor. But we've also have secured meeting space for the Harbor maintainers and the community to come together, talk a little bit about Harbor, look at our roadmap and our next investments, give an opportunity for everybody to get to know each other, share some food and drinks, and have a discussion around open source registry and where do we want to take this as a CNCF community. So this is a great opportunity for whoever's going to kind of sit and relax and chat with folks that have similar interests to you within the registry agenda. I know that Nathan, you will not make it to either Barcelona or Shanghai, but our goal is to have something similar for the San Diego KubeCon later on this year. So Maybe it won't be as big of a meetup, but we will have something for the maintainers so that it gives us an opportunity to get together as a community.
Sweet, looking forward to it.
All right. The demos, I mentioned it earlier. You should be able to find the recordings on the community website where we recorded them from earlier. So if you need to check them out, do so. If you have any questions, we can handle it in Slack or even in GitHub. All right. Anything that's on your mind to talk about today? Anything that we can help you with? Anything that Harbor related that we can address?
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is I'd like to see a little more activity in the issues and pull requests and stuff in the at least in the Helm. I don't know how it is in the mainstream Harbor repo, but the Helm one.
Yeah. And then Tyler, since you're a Pivotal employee, if you have any questions on the Helm, I know Alexander Brandt from the VMware side has been writing out some documentation around how to deploy Harbor using a Helm chart. So if you shoot me an email, either me or Jonas will put you in contact with Alex, and you guys can share. But yes, loud and clear, we need to get Harbor to be up to date. We need to stay on top of PRs, and we will do that.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to bring up pretty much the same thing. There's a similar story in the Harbor project. It seems the feedback loop is very long there. So whatever we can do to get some more eyes looking at things, I think that'll go a long way towards helping things.
Absolutely. We'll do that. And one of the things that I've asked folks moving forward is that I want us to create issues for feature requests, and I want us to discuss those issues within discuss, brainstorm, and bring use cases within the issue itself, so we can capture all the intelligence, all the knowledge into a single area and not through PRs. So I want us to use issues as the main tracking for features, and then we'll use a product prioritization board to slot those issues into releases. So that will bring a little bit more clarity to everybody. And if you want to know about something and why certain decisions were made, you can go to that issue and not to any PRs and read about it and see the discussion that happened. Excellent. Well, it seems that we'll give you guys back a few minutes of your day. Thank you so much for attending. Hopefully we'll see you guys every 2 weeks. We'll have a regular cadence now, so it will be predictable, and everybody can start joining us. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.
Bye.